Hey everybody, it's Roger Thunder here. I think I better talk about a subject that I talked about maybe 10 years ago. It's very relevant right now. It's a must hear video. And there might be longtime viewers that have been here since day one and remember me talking about this. So that's just a good indication of how far ahead of the game I am on some of this intel and then trying to spread it around to other people. But Operation Jade Helm is what we're talking about here. And this happened again, like could have been around 10 years ago. It's like it was yesterday to me. So at the time, there was talk about this Operation Jade Helm, and there were indications of it happening. And this was inclusive of guys rappelling out of helicopters in SWAT uniforms and camis and night vision goggles and coming down right out of helicopters like you see in the movies, rappelling down. Helicopters flying in formation, Black Hawk helicopters coming in. And they did this on the top of roofs somewhere down in Florida and different places. And they also took over whole communities. People didn't know what the hell was happening. They didn't know what was going on here. They were freaked out because you got this quiet, maybe suburban community or whatever. And all of a sudden, here comes maybe 10 helicopters coming down, and these guys rappelling and surrounding and blocking off streets and doing all this stuff. This was an actual events that took place back then. And everybody was talking about, before all this onslaught of all these Johnny come lately guys, the guys back then, the people like me, probably mainly me, were talking about other things too, like for instance, the FEMA, the idea of rounding up people, FEMA doing this, Department of Homeland Security, Walmarts that might go out of business and be turned into receiving facilities, uh, plots of land surrounded by barbed wire fence with all kinds of like portable coffins in there, makeshift coffins for, I mean, we're talking thousands here, stockpiled up, and just all kinds of weird shit going on back then. Well, I mean, you fast forward to now, and what do you have? Look around you because now, and I don't want anybody to mistake me for some left wing fanatic or right wing fanatic or being in politics at all, because I'm not. I'm totally outside of it. But I can see what my eyes are telling me. And I can also do a rewind back to that Operation Jade Helm, and I'm thinking this is the actual Operation Jade Helm. That was practice, but this is like becoming more the actual real Operation Jade Helm, or Jade Helm Part 2, Operation Jade Helm Part 2. Because now we see this in evidence right in front of our faces in Washington, D.C., and with the ICE agents, and this is all coinciding to look like Operation Jade Helm on steroids. Now, the thinking back then was that there was going to be some kind of martial law, all right, and over some cockamamie reason. And if you think about it, wasn't COVID kind of like a soft martial law? You know, shelter in place. You know, don't get 6 feet close to another person. Stay home if you can. All that type of thing. All right, it was kind of a conditioning for what might come later. A setup, a conditioning, a psyop. So now we got people all over the streets or being deployed to cities, National Guard. This is uniformed standing army. I don't care how you cut it or how you try to explain it away. And nobody's talking about two words: Posse Comitatus. Posse Comitatus. Well, that's one of the white man's ways of saying that. One of the founding fathers, back then saying, because of their relationship with Britain, that you can't have a standing army over the populace. You can't have a standing army acting as police over the populace. All right, that's a no-no, and that's in the Constitution, the Act of the Posse Comitatus. But where is that now? I mean, you got Washington, D.C. flooded with FBI agents and National Guard and Marines and all this stuff, all right? And I get why Washington, D.C. is the first place to do this, because not too many people know this, but Washington, D.C. is not a state. It's a territory. It has nothing to do with the United States. It's a completely privately owned by the federal government, or the backers of the government or whatever, privately owned. And so it doesn't fall under the same rules as the states. If you live in D.C., you don't have the same rights as the states. You better believe it. You don't have the same rights because you're on private property. So that is the perfect way to introduce National Guard and standing army supposedly taking over a place, right? Now, that was done there. Then you have the events happening in Los Angeles. You have the events happening in Los Angeles where Trump is sending in National Guard or Marines or whatever, again, with great uproar and great revolting back and people fighting back. And so you got two things coinciding here. You got the National Guard, and then you got the ICE raids. And again, I made a comment that I'm not political, and I'm not. I'm freedom loving, okay? I love freedom. And I know the indigenous way, and I know what the indigenous people went through back in the early days when the white settlers came in and the ideologists and took over this land. So, I know what's going on here. I see things with different eyes. So you got ICE and all these people that ICE is supposedly rounding up. Let's think clearly here, all right? A car, you're sitting in your car. Let's just say you're dark looking, you have dark hair. You could look Hispanic. You might have a dark tan, whatever. You're sitting in your car and the car pulls up. You're a family man or whatever, young guy with a kid and a wife or whatever. But, this car pulls up unmarked and these guys jump out of the car, all right, and they have masks on and they have camouflage on and they have vests on, and they got guns, Glocks probably, strapped across their chest. And they're rushing right at you, and they rip the door open, and they pull you out of the car and throw you on the ground and hurt you physically, put their knee on your neck, okay, and handcuff you, your arms behind your back. Most people aren't even used to having their arms behind their back. That's a bad situation. And when you got somebody with their knee on your neck, that's worse. So I'm a martial artist too, and I know this stuff. This is outright. Now, people might be standing around and say, where's your ID? What are you doing? What are you doing? And of course, they got police across their chest. That's all they got. There's no official ICE insignias or any of that stuff, all right? No badges. It's a constitutional right that if, even for an alien in this country, to be able to confront the arresting officer and ask for their badge or their ID number or their badge number or what their name is, all this stuff. So compare that, contrast that with guys coming up that are supposedly cops and not showing any ID and just thumbing your nose and saying, we don't have to do that and whatever. And hurting people and pulling people out of their offices, Home Depot, wherever. Thugs, these people are. The ICE people are thugs. That's what they are. SS troops. And here's another thing you have to consider about that. The other thing that you have to consider is if they can do this without IDs and all that stuff, what's to stop some bad actors sitting around in some drug house or something and, they're all, hey, look at this out there, look what they're doing. They don't need to show, they could just rip people out of cars, they don't need to show IDs. Hey, let's get in on this. We could do something here. We could dress up like, and, I'm not the, believe me, I'm not putting this idea out there. This is how these actors think. All right? We could get the same gear, the same tactical vest. You could buy it at any hunting, firearms, any of these places. You can get a complete hunting gear, which is all cami, right? You can get the wool cap. You can get the mask with the holes in it to keep you warm. And you can get the vest. You can get the bulletproof vest. You can get a Glock. You can get all of that stuff. And you can look even better than these out-of-shape assholes look. You might be fit. You might be ready to go. You might be Navy SEAL material. You could be whatever it is, that Mexican cartel gang. So, what's to prevent then? How are you going to know who the good guys are or who the bad guys are? The average citizen, if he gets yanked out, or people standing around, how are they going to know whether we should stop this? This could be a gang as opposed to ICE or somebody else. And so the the road or the vision is blurred here purposely. Don't you see that, people? This is a psychological operation. This is a takeover. This is a form of martial law. Now, they're recruiting these ICE agents like they're handing out candy cane or chocolate cookies or something. Come right this way. You get a gun, you get a badge, work for ICE. You could do, you're pretty, nobody will know who you are. You can make lots of money. Mercenaries, advertising for mercenaries that aren't really mercenaries, because if you look at these people, they're fat ass slugs, a lot of them. Big fat women, and, men too. And doesn't look like you got some people that are in shape, but it doesn't look like any kind of boot camp material or anything like that. It's just free and easy. Come on in, baby. Get your badge, get your money, you get to go out and throw these people on the ground and be authoritative and powerful and useful idiots. Useful idiots is what we have here that go and do this kind of thing. And they will suffer in the long run too, because they're always turned on. Useful idiots are always turned on. They're just used and then thrown away. So you got ICE and you got the National Guard, okay, and you got threats of them. They're in California. And then you got threats of them going into Chicago, which is currently an active thing. I don't know if they're going there or not. I assume they will. They will get the ICE agents in at least. This is serious trouble, because what did Ben Franklin say, one of the founding fathers? What did This is all about, oh, we got to get the crime off the street. There's not enough security. We don't feel secure. We can't go out and eat. We can't do all this. Well, Ben Franklin said those who swap freedom for security will have neither. Will have neither. That's profound. That's true. If you give up your freedom now, you're not going to have security, because the very people that you're giving up your freedom to are the ones that are going to jail you or enslave you or do away with you in an extreme, let's say, vision, which could easily be done. Because if you watch my last videos now, martial law would have been hard to do, just deploying troops everywhere. It's kind of hard to do, all right? But now you got states talking about secession, just like the Civil War. This is creating, in a sense, civil chaos with the extreme right and left and all the goofballs coming out on both sides on the YouTube. You know, even the left now has headbands on, and they look more militaristic, although they always did on the street. And then, of course, there's a lot of infiltration by agents in this whole thing as well. Hidden agents, you know, in the movements, and egging people on and taking a regular movement and turning it into a more violent movement, like with BLM. So I see a quickening. I see a ramping up. This is like in your face, Jade Helm. I mean, if I'd have saw this back, you know, when I did my first video, and you should go back and search for it. It's in there somewhere. If I find it, I might put it in the show notes. But I got hundreds of videos, so. But I remember specifically doing a video on this, like a prophet would. It's coming, people. I pick things out of the news sources and see in them things that most people don't even think about, or that they just think, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. All kinds of stuff went down back then with when we were all talking about the Katrina and weird stuff going on with FEMA moving in there, and raping women and stealing money and stuff like that. All kinds of weird, malicious, evil stuff went on back then. Now you got all this happening, and FEMA is like toothless as far as helping people. The poor people in North Carolina and Ashton or Asheville, I think it is, and people in Texas, and floods everywhere. And that's another thing. That wasn't bad enough. The earth, and maybe this is a good thing, the earth is starting to act up right now. Oh, it really is. There's no doubt about it. We got volcanic action all along the Ring of Fire, which goes from like Hawaii around to up into the Aleutian Island chain, and around and through Alaska and down through Colombia. It's just one big ring of fire, which is subduction zones, okay? And they're like lighting up right now. Kamchatka kind of kicked it off, and the sun has been very active, very, very active. It's and then you got this. There's so much going on right now, people. It's amazing. You got this planetary thing that Avi Loeb, the guy that is a professor at Harvard, is talking about. You got a planetary thing coming in called A1 Atlas. And there's speculation about that because it's not acting like a comet. And this famous Harvard professor is arguing that it seems like it's made of some kind of other kind of material, not planetary. It's too big to be a rock. So there's a lot of debate about that thing coming in, which is due here on October 2nd or 3rd. in the vicinity. And an object like that is conducive to changing the whole Earth dynamic and the whole magnetosphere and the interpolar battery of the Earth, the polarity battery, and the north poles and south poles, and interaction with the sun. It causes sun flares, and then we get a bombardment of radiation, CMEs, and on and on and on. So there is all kinds of activity going on right now. And so, as a wisdom keeper, I just feel you need a heads up on it. A heads up, because it's manifesting. Even got the drones and all over the place and being explained away as some type of drone, and flying objects all around the Earth, which could be nothing more than the consciousness of the Earth exhibiting itself through the stars. And that's what the Star Nation is all about. That's what the native tradition is all about. That's what the Red Man is all about. Connecting with that consciousness. And that's what the Surfing Association that I put together is all about. Connecting with that consciousness through union with the consciousness of the planet. Mother Earth, Grandfather Sky, Grandfather Mother, whatever. Got to connect with that right now, people. So I had to do a video on this thing because, again, I'm remembering that original, and there they are. They're repelling right down, and not repelling, but they're being shipped in trucks and appearing at your local neighborhood corner. No newsboys, none of that. It's all just like cami, wall-to-wall cami in some of these places. And you got the cami, you got the out front guys that are identified and all good and clean, and they look good. And hey, they even posed for GQ, man. I saw a picture where there was 4 of them, and they were all posed, and they had their hands on their guns. And oh, wow! Those are the out front guys. And then you got the behind the scene thugs, overweight, vicious, animalistic ice agents, all right. So this is nothing different than what went down in the early days of the colonialists coming here and ransacking Turtle Island, which they named America. Same thing. Genocide, kill the savages. They're pagans. They're not Christians. Cut their hair, cut the kids' hair, shave their head. Wash their mouth out with lye soap if they speak their lingo, their language. How can a country born on that kind of atrocity even expect anything different than this? It's karma coming back to bite them in the ass. The ones that have put up with it, the ones that haven't kept the remembrance of the old ways. The Lakota and the Hopi and the Ute and the Apache and the Dene and the list goes on and on and on. The tribal ways, the Polynesian ways, the ancient Polynesian ways, the ancient Siberian ways, the medicine man, the shaman, the act of nature and living next to it. So their karma is going to come back and bite them in the ass eventually. And I'll be in the front row seats there watching it with my popcorn and my beer. And except I don't do that. I'm more like a wine and cheese man myself. Little wine, little sharp cheese, and little snacks, and maybe a little bruschetta, and just kick back and watch the show and say, aho, aho, it is good. because that means when you start seeing this show, there's a change coming on. So I'll leave it there. I don't want this video to be too long, and I hope you like it. If you do, you can hit the thumbs up thing, although I don't think algorithms has anything to do with my shadow banning. So if you like it, you could do that, or comment, or I like comments. I do like comments, so feel free. Yeah, until next time. Wopila. Aho.